I think I was brought here for comedic relief, but then Ellen stole the show. So now I think I'm here for an intervention, maybe, or for to play the bad guy. So that's kind of what my speech is sort of centered around. I eat wholesomely, and that's always been my sort of approach to people. Is like, I will trick you into eating the worst foods. But enjoy them, and if you do, then that's wonderful, and your life is better, because do we want to live forever, or do we want to eat donuts? And now I know what the answer is. So the really interesting thing, I think, in a restaurant's role, and we're certainly the influencers in this situation, and I joke about being the bad guy, but as the first two sort of talks pointed out, is that the influence that we put on you to eat, whether you're in my restaurant or just watching an Instagram post or whatever it is our role is fairly big in what we crave and what we choose to eat. And we definitely most often go with the easiest items, which is like a beautiful glistening pork chop, bacon and eggs. You should see the burger we're putting out at Harmony this weekend to celebrate 420. It's the worst thing ever, but we will sell a lot of them. Restaurants are famous for having chicken wings as an appetizer, right? And I think that sort of summarizes the whole thing. And restaurants, the role we can play. If you can get someone to order a pound of chicken wings, deep fried, with cheese sauce to dip on the side as an appetizer, then we're really affecting the world, right? And we're really playing a negative role. As I say that, and I kind of joke, and I always have, is that you don't go to restaurants every day. So go ahead and do that. Eat your chicken wings, then have a hamburger, then have a brownie, and chase it down with a couple of beers. That's our business model. We obviously want that to happen, but dining trends are changing a lot, and people are now eating out far more often. They're eating convenience foods that they're bringing home from, whether it be a restaurant or a grocery store, or things that are half and half, because there's so many of those now. Convenience foods are playing a big role in eating out all the time. Delivery services, Uber Eats, Skip the Dishes. We send a lot of food out the back door of the restaurant for people that aren't leaving the house. And what that tells me is that they're eating more and more out, or not their own food. So we've come to start to think about the fact that we have to consider our customers' health. And if you're not in the building anyways, I should worry less about your dessert and your beer, and worry about you being a client for a long, long time. So this is something that we've started to pay more and more attention to. We've pretended to be healthy a lot. I often do vegetarian dinners at Uptown 21, where we have our restaurant, and I've joked in the past about when folks come in for those dinners, that I'm not a vegetarian, I'm not a vegan, I do not know how to eat as a healthy vegan. So tonight you won't get your whole proteins, and you won't get all of the things that you normally do, but who cares? You're here for 5 courses of delicious vegetarian food, and you can figure that out tomorrow. I've learned a little bit more since that, and every year in January I do like a pittance of healthy eating. So in January I'll decide to give something up. Usually it's just beer or weed or something like that. This year I decided to give up all of those things and go vegan for the month. So this, to me, I know that I'm not going to set my entire year right because of one healthy month, but I do know that I can learn to eat healthier for a month, learn to be inspired by it, and carry that forward. A couple kids at home too, so instilling those beliefs of healthy eating is pretty important, because as the other graph showed, by the time they're 14 and making decisions on their own, I'm out of the picture and I can't help anymore. And I'm like walking, breathing evidence of that. My mom, we grew up very healthy, and as soon as I was off on my own, it was all of the things that we saw pictures of earlier that looked so good. So I did this vegan month, and I learned to realize that if you aren't eating a whole protein, if you aren't getting the things that you need, then you're returning to the refrigerator all night long until you fill that void. And even though it's healthier things, as in it wasn't cold cuts and it wasn't pickles or whatever, it was still pickles, but it's still just massive amounts of food. So it dawned on me that letting those vegetarians, letting them come to the restaurant that night, and feeding them this meal void of proper whole proteins really it's not as simple and cut and dry as I thought it was. And that point was actually driven home today. I was on my way here listening to AM radio, and a local restaurant had an ad on the radio, and it said, yes, we're a steakhouse, but we also offer vegetarian, vegan, and gluten-free items. So come here because you can eat healthy too. And I kind of laughed because gluten-free is not healthy. Gluten-free is a thing. And yes, it often leads to a healthier diet, but it's not, you're avoiding gluten is not healthy. So the educational component and how easy these guides are to understand, there's something lost between the two. I know all of this stuff. I've often said that my issues with my own eating and my own weight gain are not because of a lack of education, it's a lack of commitment. It's a desire to eat the foods that I'm surrounded with, and I'm constantly surrounded with them. But it's also, like, for a larger part of the community, it is about education. And I think if restaurants are out there touting the wholesome properties of gluten-free pasta, they're missing the mark, because that pasta is just as void of anything good than it was if it had gluten. My sister-in-law runs a bone broth company in town, and I joined her at the Canadian Healthy Foods something or other in Toronto, where I was very much a fish out of water, but I went because it was a trade show and there was value for me to be there for my own experiences going forward with products we're launching and whatever. I was also there to support my sister-in-law. I was amazed walking around this thing that it was there was sort of three groups of foods there. One was real healthy foods, sprouted grains, bone broths, like things like that. We all know those are healthy. They're boring and they're healthy. And then there was the bodybuilder healthy foods. So people handing me supplements. I'm walking down the aisles and here's this powder, here's this drink, here's this whatever, loaded with sugar, loaded with nasty things, and they're not healthy by any sense of the imagination. And then the third was gluten-free products, so gluten-free corn chips. So I make a lot of corn chips. We know they're not healthy. We do not try and pretend they're healthy. I know that you dip them in salty salsa or smother them in cheese or whatever it is. Would never in a million years try and pass them off as a healthy food. But there I was being handed gluten-free corn chips as a health food product, and I laughed so hard at the whole thing. And then there's millions of dollars behind this food expo. There's thousands of people coming and going from it. And a lot of them feel really great when they leave the front door thinking of all these new discoveries they've made. But it's absolutely sort of missing the mark of a balanced diet, and the picture of the plate that's back there of the sort of this size, this size, this size. None of that's there, and if you were to just go, yeah, corn chips and protein powder and head home and make some sort of concoction, and there are people, like, we laugh, but there are people out there that think they're eating healthy because they've done something like that. So I think something that I think about, and the other reason I did this vegan month was because as a restaurateur we see a large trend heading towards vegan eating, healthier eating, and not necessarily vegan from a point of your body's health, but the world's health. This is something that probably means more to me than what I care about my weight or your weight or anybody else's. Is kind of like, you figure that out, but we all got to think about the planet. So from that point of view, and from a trends point of view, we've been thinking more and more about vegan eating, vegan offerings, and just how big that market is getting. So I'm not all good guy. I'm also thinking there's a lot of money coming through that corridor that we need to start thinking about. And the month that I spent being vegan, I realized that some restaurants can give you vegan food and it's garbage and it's really boring, and some restaurants can give you vegan food and it's good, but it's also gluten-free for some reason or whatever it is, and it drives me nuts, because if I didn't say I was gluten-free. Give me a real wrap, not a spelt wrap. And then there's a couple of restaurants in the world that go, you know what, vegans just want really delicious food, and they want it to be addictive, and they want it to be delicious, and they want it to be all of the things that non-vegan food is. And I have the power to do that, which I learned over that month, because we were really surprised at how well we ate when we ate at home. When we ate out, it was often quite expensive and it was often quite not super awesome. But when we ate at home, I was spending like a fraction of the price that I was spending normally, and introducing flavors, because I go, oh shit, there's no pork fat. I'm gonna need it to be spicy, and I'm gonna need it to be sour, and all these things. So we're making really, really great dishes, and it opened up my eyes to how we can make healthy food sexy. And I think that's what's missing from the world, is like the reason that we would choose French fries over apple slices, and at all of our restaurants, our kids' menus by default come with salad or vegetables. We do not offer French fries, although you get them because you're the customer. So ultimately, you get them, but the menu says comes with side of vegetables. And we cut them whole. We don't put anything on them because I know my kids, if they can pick up a cucumber slice, they'll eat it, and we're good. But half of the meals that go out get changed to rice or to French fries or to whatever it is, or no side at all, which is mystifying. But it's about making it sexy and making it the choice that we would want, and it's not hard to do, although it's a big sea change that has to happen. And in my industry, we're very much competitive driven, and if my neighbor isn't going to make the same commitments I'm going to, if you want to tax French fries, you'd better get every restaurant to raise the prices and tax French fries, right? Because the people who do it you'll never go there again. And the people who don't, you will keep going there because French fries are the best. And you can't just make it an unfair playing field. But I think what I've begun to see and notice and desire to be a part of is that there is a whole population of people that are interested in eating, whether it's healthy or better for the planet, and those two things so often go hand in hand. They're willing to do this. And chefs, we and restaurateurs as influencers need to become a part of that solution, if nothing else, just because everyone's dying and getting fat, and it's a big toll on the healthcare system, and it's not good for any of us. And I say that as a culprit. So I think if restaurants can get behind no more straws or these really silly flash in the pan, and it's not silly, but it's easy to get behind. And restaurants can oftentimes get behind something that's really easy. Yes, let's stop the drilling. Let's stop the whatever it is. And they're important, but there's sexy world causes that are just easy to get behind. It's a simple social media push, and it's all, it's all show and not any real action. And I think that it would be very valuable and very wise if whomever is doing all of this work and spending all of this money to try and, from a distance, guilt us or tell us or whatever it is into eating better, they should really, I feel like there would be benefits made if there was a strategic partnership between trendsetters, influencers, all of these people, and this. Because I can tell you that from that healthy section or the perimeter walk around the grocery store, I can make a really wonderful meal that even the greatest carnivore would line up for and want to eat, but it's just slivers of meat, and it's just lots of leafy green vegetables and all of the things we're supposed to eat, but we won't, because no one's telling us to yet, and no one's explaining the virtues of it yet, and no one's sort of giving us the motivation and the inspiration that we need to do it. So I don't want to live in a world that potatoes are taxed or French fries are taxed or anything like that. I very much believe that we should all be given the right to make our own choices. And I would hate to start, I think, when you talk about affecting that bottom layer and how much more effective it would be, well, that's a world that we all don't want to live in, right? No one wants to be told you can't smoke cigarettes anymore, but it's nice that the world's not smoking cigarettes as much anymore. So I don't want to live in a place where I guess I can enjoy the odd cigar or the odd cheeseburger or the odd whatever and make those decisions, but clearly we're not doing a good enough job telling people, this is a very healthy room. I look around this room and this is a bad mix. If you were to do a survey and say, yeah, we're not healthy, well, we look pretty healthy, this is a good looking room, but you guys are here by choice, and the minute we go downtown and walk into any one of those restaurants, we'll see a completely different demographic, and so this is not where the changes are going to be made. This is where the changes are already made. This is where you guys are already here for a reason. The change is going to be made in grocery stores like Dutchies. That's wonderful that they've got their local food at the front, well, mandarin oranges, but lots of grocery stores do that, but it's, in a lot of ways, it's just greenwashing, much like that commercial that I told you about on the radio today. You walk into a Loblaws and they've got the local apples at the front, but then it's all the international fruit right next to it. They know what they're doing, and they know how to put out little sort of tidbits like the count your calories of your Pepsi can. They know how to appease us, and McDonald's will put apple slices with their kids' meals, but I have never convinced my kids to get those apple slices, because who would? So I think that the big thing from what my world and where I come from is that it would be great to have people discover on their own, restaurateurs, or be sort of coached through the process of why it's valuable and why it's going to be an advantageous marketing strategy as well to offer foods that are more and more healthy, because people are eating out more and more than they ever were before, and I think that's obviously a huge part of the problem. From a restaurant's point of view, the cheapest thing I can put on a plate is a French fry or a pile of rice or a piece of bread, and it's all the things that we were just told not to eat. So I think that we play a huge role, and I don't think stubbornly many of us will ever make changes without being shown the reasons why. So I would suggest that would be an important step, and just being shown how we can make the world a better place and get rich at the same time. Wouldn't that be great? So that's pretty much my point of view. I eat, I am not a healthy eater. I will not sit here and lie and be one of those guys. I am happy though with every bite that goes into my mouth, because the crappy things that I eat are generally crappy things that I made, I got from a local farm, and all of that kind of stuff. And I feel better about it than I do when I drive away from a McDonald's drive-through with a bag full of garbage. So I think that's something that needs to be educated to, is that wholesome eating, 80-20, however you want to look at it, is not really doing the trick, because as you mentioned, we all lie to ourselves and lie to our trainers and lie to our whomevers it is about how many hamburgers we had. So thank you guys. I look forward to trying to play a role in the community when it comes to that, and sort of helping that cause get pushed along in a way that's not boring and delicious. So thanks guys.